Here with reaction, Fox News contributors Joe Concha and Tammy Bruce, and Project 21 chairman Horace Cooper is with us. Tammy, we start with you tonight. We've got to start with the obvious. We have chronicled since 2020 Joe as weak, frail, and a cognitive mess. Now, when you have cognitive issues, they are degenerative. We have watched significant cognitive decline over the last 3+ years with Joe Biden. Last night, we saw a very different Joe Biden. I say jacked up Joe. I'm not sure exactly how many Red Bulls he had or whatever else he might have had. However, screaming and shouting and shouting and screaming for the entire speech, speed reading through it, not even allowing the speaker, as usually happens, to even introduce him. What was your reaction to last night's jacked up Joe?
Well, we've seen it before. There have been dynamic situations where he's been just like this. I think Philadelphia was one of them, in front of that blood red building, where there was pounding and fists and accusations and smears. So we know they can get him to this point. We don't know how. Maybe Hakeem Jeffries was correct. He was lit in some way. But it's unfortunate and frightening for the American people, because we have to have a president who is not there as a showpiece and who is where we can trust his state of mind. The world is in quite a fit right now with wars and everything else. Our country clearly is in decline, is a dumpster fire at this point, and we think we know why. Your clip of that ad of his, they took it from last night's State of the Union address. So literally it was written to place into an ad comparing Trump with the Klan. So this was not just a campaign event, but using an event that is supposed to inform the American people as a campaign event instead, with shouts of 4 more years. No one learned anything. We know what their narrative is, what the lies are. And the next thing is, he might have been good for last night, but the next gaffe will happen, the next fall will happen, the next blank stare will happen, and that is what concerns the American people. But this was theater to reassure that 86% of voters who think he's too old. He is too old. And the fact that they used the State of the Union address to bring out angry, forgetful guy as some renewed man shows you, Sean, that they're concerned about that, they're desperate, and that America is being led, but not by this man.
And Joe Concha, that does bring up a great point, and I want to follow up on that. I think Joe Biden had to accomplish 2 things last night. One is to somehow break the obvious narrative, what the American people are seeing in larger and larger numbers, that this man is a cognitive mess. So whatever, he was going to scream his way through the speech. The liberal mob can say, see, he can actually scream. He's great at screaming, better than speaking. The second thing he had to do, he's bleeding support, as I mentioned in my monologue, from significant portions of the Democratic Party base. And I believe the reason the speech was so radical and one-sided and viciously partisan was because he needs to desperately shore up his base if he wants any chance about winning in 241 days from now on November 5th.
Precisely, Sean. I mean, this was all to portray this president as fiery. We saw that word multiple times across multiple major news organizations, as if a memo went out, as if the code red was sent out by Colonel Jessup and a few good men. Use fiery, and Democratic lawmakers did the same thing. It was to make him look like a man in command of his thoughts and his agenda. But I think what we witnessed last night, you made the point, and it's a word I keep seeing as well, but it's an accurate one. It was patently loud. It was decidedly decisive. It was dishonest on a grand scale. This was to show that the president has the energy and the stamina for the job. But a big tell happened today, Sean, and Tammy broached this earlier. When the president was asked today if he would debate Donald Trump, he responded, and I quote, "It depends on his behavior," unquote. What a cop-out. Any president who is truly confident in his arguments and his faculties would say yes on the spot. Of course, presidents, nominees debate each other every time during every 4 years. He should have said, I'll debate Donald Trump tomorrow. But the president's handlers are going to make sure that he goes nowhere near that stage now and all the way to Election Day. Because you know why? On a debate stage, there is no teleprompter. There is no script. There are no notes. There is no cheering section. And he's going to actually have to answer questions and defend his records completely unscripted and extemporaneously. And this is something he simply cannot do at this point.
I think that is a great point and a great observation. Horace, let's get your take on all of this.
Well, I saw an angry old man threatening America to get off his lawn. Now, my brother would say he looked like he was jacked up on Mountain Dew. What I heard when I watched was a litany of over-the-top, expensive government programs that are never going to happen. But when we look back in time, when that approach was tried, what we see is it doesn't work. In fact, my most recent book is entitled, Put Y'all Back in Chains. It's about how Joe Biden's policies have harmed Black Americans in the same way that it's hurt the rest of the country. He should have focused on what it was that he plans to do to improve the lot of America. He is caught. He is caught. Whoever the people are that help manipulate and push him realize that he is caught. He is not able to ask the Federal Reserve to start cutting rates today. He's not able to announce that he's issuing an executive order that is going to get our border under control. Black Americans in particular, who are considered a core constituency of his party, they're losing homes because interest rates are too high. They're foreclosing. When they compete in the marketplace, they're being undercut by millions of people who are in this country illegally. When you go to the grocery store, it's like you're going to have to fill out a credit application just so you can pay for what's in your shopping cart. Nothing that he said is actually dealing with that. Many Black Americans, like others, feel like their priorities, if you're working class, if you're middle class, you're at the back of the Biden political bus.
All right, Horace Cooper, thank you. Tammy, thank you. Joe Concha, as always, thank you too.